Welcome everyone, Costin here with a discussion about Kurunta in Total War Pharaoh Dynasties, the Storm God, or the latest pretender that is a man who's trying to pretend to be a god. We actually have two of them in the same area because we have Iolus over here, or rather he's the brother of the sun. Whatever, over there, the brother of Apollo more like. The crazed brother of Apollo. I'm sure Kratos would love to get his hands on him. Just like he got his hands on, well, Apollo. Well, not quite Apollo. Anyway, regardless of that, we got to talk about Kurunta over here. He does have some benefits compared to, say, Shupal. Because here's the thing to know about Shupal. Very important thing to know about Shupal. Is that, yes, if you play properly with Shupal and play your cards right, you can become much more powerful than Kurunta, because you do start as the king of Hatti with all of the benefits that come attached to it. Your unit roster is stronger, you start with a vassal, so there's a lot more power for Shupal to potentially unlock. However, if you're looking to play a campaign as Hatti that's safer, Kurunta is your better bet, especially if you start with all the features unlocked, because you will be able to devote a general to Kurunta, your Kurunta, worshipping Kurunta makes sense, and get all of the benefits here from turn 1. Because you start with a shrine right next to your main settlement, you devote a general, so you get that movement restored after battle, you get that charge bonus, you get that prayer for movement on sea and land. It is a very powerful starting situation. And then, on top of that, you could go for various royal traditions, but obviously the one the campaign is designed to go for is obviously the Hittite one. And you can quite crucially take this particular position, which gives you free schemes, and then with those schemes, if you get enough gold for it, you can actually unlock a good amount of power from the very beginning. Because you can get your hands on a bunch of resources over here. Let's say, we trade a bunch of that stone, all that, for it all. And then we can use those that assist option. Or you could just use, your gossip choices here. But you can also get you could go for like Chief of the Royal Bodyguards, or you can go with the High Commander to unlock units, or with the High Judge. All kinds of options that are available over here. So keep in mind that. The High Judge gives you a court case to decide, which can give you some very tangible benefits, though it can also give you some useless benefits. So that's one thing to keep in mind with respect to the court. In terms of court benefit, you do get higher level plots. Not particularly useful. It can be useful in some cases, but not especially great from the very beginning over there, or useful at all. And in terms of ancient legacies, well, the one in Hatti that's really good, is the benevolent. Don't bother with the overseer. It's just not really worth it. You want to go for the benevolent if you are playing a Hittite campaign. Though really, both the Hittite ancient legacies are not particularly great. I would really go with the Sargon the Great personally, if I was playing this. Or if you just want to have a completely easy time, just go with the freaking merchant. Build a massive freaking economy, because yeah, you can go with the merchant over here, and you can just start trading from the very beginning of your campaign very, very easily. Trade with Troy. Yes, this is no freaking joke. This is no joke at all. You do have access to it. It will give you some very tangible benefits if you do decide to trade with Troy, for instance. A bit of gold over there, some food if you want to go for it. Various other benefits that you can get access to, right? Various choices over here that you can get access to, or you can go further afield, get a bunch of stone, get a bunch of bronze. These are all available in this campaign with the merchant. But yeah, go for the Benevolent if you're looking to play with an Ancient Legacy, because that will give you things like instant construction, vassal units once you do unlock them. But you're going to have to build for that. So again, Shupal is better. Shupi is better if you play them correctly. Kurunta is just, well, safer. You do start with a lot less, with only one settlement, and you're at war with the faction. And you have food and stone in your initial province. So you're going to be lacking in other resources. Keep that in mind, because it is going to be an important benefit. In terms of your commands, you have an active command that gives you 100% loot from raising settlements for 5 turns. Not really great, because you typically don't want to raise settlements. The reason you don't want to raise settlements in this game is, yes, it will give you resources, but the resources that you use to build up settlements, wood and stone, they're unrelated to food, bronze, and gold. Like, there are certain things that require gold, but not necessarily that many. So it's not really beneficial to burn everything to the ground in any campaign, virtually any campaign. And really, when it comes to it, raising stuff, like sacking, looting, occupying, that's one thing. Actually raising settlements to the ground, not a great idea at all. Don't go for it, really. But the passive command, if you're not using your active one, will cause all units in all your armies to cause fear, which does give you a significant morale benefit that you will probably need, especially if you're dealing with, say, Shupal, which is going to be who is going to be our natural rival in this campaign. Like, you don't have to fight Kurunta if you're playing Shupal. You do want to fight Shupal if you're playing Kurunta. Keep that aspect in mind. I mean, it's literally said on the loading screen from the very beginning that Kurunta doesn't think highly of Shupal. Okay. So those are some things to keep in mind. In terms of unique buildings, you get the military sabotage post, the mercenary hunting camp, mercenary office. Let's talk about all of these buildings, because, yeah, I'm not particularly impressed by any of them when we're thinking about it. So the military sabotage camp, it does increase your raiding income for own armies in all adjacent provinces, and reduces melee attack and reduces movement speed on land for enemy armies. Keep in mind, you do start close enough to the sea, so it's not necessarily the biggest benefit, but it can be a decent enough defensive benefit. But I personally wouldn't bother with the structure. You typically don't want to raid that much, though you do have large enough distances that it is a realistic possibility over here, but still, raiding income is not going to be that great. So bothering with this, not really that important. The mercenary office that you can upgrade into the mercenary center gives you recruitment slots, recruitment rank for Kaskian units, native units, and Phrygian units, as well as giving you legitimacy at the cost of influence. Decent enough building, especially those recruitment slots, to be sure. Legitimacy, too low to be that useful, but hey, if you want to recruit a bunch of units very, very quickly, could be a particularly great structure. And then, yes, the mercenary hunting camps over here as a potential food building, though apparently isn't available from your main settlement. I guess it is a minor settlement building only over there with respect to that. But looking at the benefits of it for this particular menu, increases your food, it gives you some food income, but more importantly, gives you XP per turn plus 25 and reduces the upkeep of your armies by 5%. Again, not especially great. Some of these things are benefits, of course, but there's also a lot of things that are clearly lacking over here for Kurunta. That's one of the problems with him. Like, Kurunta, you might think he's... Like, the Hittites are a strong civilization in general, but Kurunta does have a lot of things lacking for him. And then there is the unit roster. So native units, like obviously there's a bunch of native units that you can go for, but you do start with Louis and Swordsman and Spearmen. Spearmen are decent enough line holders. Swordsman can get the job done against a bunch of like weaker units. Decent enough durability, decent enough damage, but obviously not really the greatest unit in in the world, though they do have that 10% lethality. Don't underestimate swordsmen, actually, in quite a few ways. They're obviously not clubmen or axemen, but they do have enough decent lethality to get the job done. They've really made swordsmen quite a bit more useful than they were before, because like before the Dynasties update, they weren't particularly great or worth using. At higher tiers, we get things like a Suo Axeman, decent enough units, not heavy infantry like, but you do get Hittite archers, skirmishers, Anatolian spears from native units, and then at tier 4 you get chariots, renowned Suo Axemen, and armored Anatolian swordsmen over there. But then we go even further, because we go into things like infantry housing. And what we have here at Infantry Complex is Kurunta's specialty in terms of his unique units is to get a bunch of heavy charge infantry. Now, you'll be vulnerable to archers, but considering how melee heavy the Hittites and a lot of other factions can be over here, and combine that with the heavy armor that these guys have, they are really powerful. They've got a huge amount of lethality. They have a lot of armor piercing damage. So don't underestimate these guys, because they're pretty strong. And of course, there is the tier 3 version, which Hittite Chargers, not quite as good, of course, but still a huge amount of lethality, good armor piercing, bonus for shield. Like, yeah, you got some really good charge infantry available over here. But then, as if that wasn't enough, you have more melee units available. So you're going to rely on native units for your ranged infantry, which, yes, that does have its own issues. And you do have some fairly heavy chariots, be it melee chariots or ranged chariots, though the tier 5 unit is a melee chariot. There are some problems with the inner roster, like basically Shuma does have more durable infantry and he has easier access to those kind of axemen. But but with the addition of lethality, like Kurunta was vastly inferior compared to Shuma. Now things have been even out quite a bit due to the addition of lethality, but you're still going to be behind in certain ways. So just keep that in mind with him. Now, it's interesting to think about his ruling family, though, because he actually has a crazy level of benefits over here. When we look at his stats, he starts with a lot of stats. And the reason he starts with a lot of stats is he gets the Dark Heart, which gives him Presence, Fortitude, and Ardor. He has Cruel over there. And his wife gives him Fortitude plus 3. And he also starts with 2 kids. One's 11, the other one is 9 years old. So if you're playing a campaign where you're looking to potentially replace your faction leader, through aging, Kurunta does actually start with a family, so he may have easier access to that than a number of people. Although, let's be fair, Prime is the best one in that respect, because he has Hector, Paris, and Aeneas available to him. Especially Hector and Paris, though really, who the hell would want Paris in charge of everything? Research-wise, you do start with native officers, so you could potentially get a lot of experience from battle. What I would recommend getting as quickly as possible would be preparation against reprisal for the God Dedication slot, and then getting the third one over here from Perpetual Dedication. So this would give you some workforce growth. You don't necessarily need a lot of happiness over here. That would, however, be your initial focus in terms of the campaign. Get those god slots. And let's talk about the gods. Obviously, you're going to always have Kurunta, so you're going to get that movement range benefit. What other gods do you want to go for? Focusing on the Hittite gods. I'll be blunt, they're not really worth it. Like, I was apparently wrong about Arena. Like, it can be hard to tell sometimes. Like, I had the idea that the upkeep benefit was for the entire army. No, it's only for the bodyguards. It's like, okay, that's worthless. But you do get that resources from sacking, looting, and occupying, which could be useful. But, yeah, let's just say that a lot of the things available over here is not really great. Taruna, kind of, that armor and workforce growth, but for that workforce growth more so. But I would probably go with Shaska as the second one. Just the workforce growth, damage versus missiles, and morale. But realistically, honestly, I would personally choose, going with something like Yam, for instance, like gold upkeep, bronze upkeep, food benefits, happiness benefit. Or just, like, there's so many gods that are available in this game. Like, you could realistically get access to the Canaanite gods. Especially because you don't have to actually fight in Hatti early on. You could just focus like, oh, let me take Cyprus and its massive stockpile of, bronze, and then go to Canaan and get access to their gods if you're playing with them locked off from the start. I find it ridiculous that they're locked off from the start, but you do at least have the ability of going for it. So you could, possibly go with L. And fun fact, his cult center is in Ugarit. So you do have, it is a bit of a trek, but you could realistically unlock him early on as a second god. So you could play this campaign with an enormous amount of movement range, even if you start with things locked by default. I would just unlock them from the very start. So what you would obviously want to take your initial province. What do you do after that? Well, you might want to take some territory over here. There's gold, there's bronze, there's food. Just keep in mind that you don't want to start a war with Chupoliuma, or maybe you do want to start a war with Chupoliuma. Bear in mind, when you do go for the settlement, that will trigger the war with Chupoliuma. So keep that aspect in mind. There's also a bunch of factions that war with other factions that can give you a bunch of resources initially. Like these guys started a war with that minor faction over there in Cyprus. So hey, you want some free bronze, for instance, as a starting point? You can get access to it, so it's not really a problem. You will have a lack of initial resources that you will have to deal with, though, in this campaign. Bear that in mind. That would be about it. How do I feel about Kurunta? Chupoliuma is better. Simple as that. But I stand by what I said. If you want a safer campaign, this might be the one to go for. But if you want to play a campaign that may be higher risk, but far higher reward, yeah, Chupoliuma is the better choice. So I guess if you want to cosplay as Robert Baratheon, this might be the campaign for you. The Storm King is here.